Hi, this is Mr. Evans. This video is going to look at an essay on this part of the specification here in the operations unit, ways of matching supply to demand. And the question is, to what extent is outsourcing a good way to match supply to demand at Zen Outdoors? So this is based on a case study. And as usual, with most questions, there will be a couple of ways of approaching it. Now, you can see from the specification that there are a number of different ways that you should know about to match supply to demand. And so you could approach this question in a number of different ways. The question is outsourcing a good way to match supply to demand? Probably the simplest structure is plan 2. What are the pros of outsourcing? What are the cons of outsourcing? And therefore, is it a good way to match supply to demand? Another structure could be, what are the pros and cons of outsourcing? What are the pros and cons of another method? And is outsourcing a good way, and is the other method better? Now, the importance of reading the case study is that you will get information that will help you plan, that will help you decide which plan is best in the context of this business. So let's have a look at the question, the case study, sorry. And just to remind you, I would suggest that you read the questions before you read the case study. And when you read the case study, maybe have a couple of different coloured highlighters and a pen with which you annotate the case study, just to make any notes that you think of as you're reading the case study. Sometimes you come up with a really good idea when you're reading the case study. Just jot it down next to the paragraph in which made you think of it, because then you can come back to it when you're writing your essay. So in this instance, I'm going to use two highlighters to colour this case study. One will be the advantages of outsourcing, one will be the disadvantages. So let's read the case study. During her engineering degree, Lucy Graham invented a fabric that was strong and durable, but also lightweight and waterproof. When she left university, Lucy started a company called Zen Outdoors that designed lightweight, strong, warm and waterproof tents using the fabric. The reputation of the tents grew quickly thanks to the quality of the design and the performance of the fabric. Lucy has a team of specialised staff, all of whom have completed a rigorous 6-month training program. Okay, so she's got specialised staff, all have completed a rigorous 6-month training program. Well, this could be a reason to outsource, because in this instance, it doesn't look like you're going to be able to use temporary or part-time employees if these all need to go through a rigorous 6-month training program. They only have 2 clients, each is a national retailer of camping equipment. So only 2 clients. So this, for me, is also an argument for outsourcing, because if you've only got 2 clients, it's going to be really important to keep them happy. In addition to that, what you've got to do, what you've got to think about is if you've only got 2 clients, those clients are very, very powerful. If one of them stops shopping, using you, that's going to be a big portion of your sales. So outsourcing might allow you to find another customer, satisfy more demand, and then you spread your risk. Okay, so both are very loyal to Tent, mainly because of the quality of the tent and a 1-week delivery guarantee on orders of any quantity. Okay, so this is going to be important, potentially argument against outsourcing, because it's going to be very difficult when you outsource to monitor the quality produced, and it looks like the quality of the design, the performance of the fabric are arguments, are the source of this company's USP. So by 2017, it had become clear to Lucy that the factory would need to expand in order to meet the growing demand for tents. Lucy has borrowed $2.6 million from the bank in order to extend the warehouse to increase capacity to 250,000 tents a year. Okay, I might be able to use this as an argument for outsourcing, because again, keeping your clients happy is going to be really, really important. If you borrowed $2.6 million, you don't want to be upsetting your current customers or letting down a potential future customer, because you're going to have to be paying back some money to once you've expanded the warehouse. So in spring 2018, Lucy has received an inquiry from Music Events Limited, a company that organises music festivals across Europe. They want 75,000 tents to house their staff in the summer season, and they're prepared to pay 1.5 million. Okay, I'll be able to do a calculation here in a bit, won't I? I'll be able to work out how much they're prepared to pay per tent. And also they require 10,000 tents for the first festival in the season in 2 weeks' time. So Lucy wants to fulfill the order, but can think of no other way she can match supply to demand other than by outsourcing to her biggest rival, Rugged Tents. So outsourcing to the biggest rival, that sounds like you're giving them business, which might not be a great idea. And Lucy has particularly serious reservations about outsourcing the production of her tent, the biggest of which is sharing the design of the fabric, which Lucy believes to be the source of their competitive advantage. We've seen how the quality of the design, performance of the fabric has improved the reputation of the tent. So you don't want to be just giving that away to your closest rival to fulfill an order. This is a long-term source of competitive advantage. You don't want to be giving it away to, just fulfill one order potentially. Other issues, AQA like giving you numerical data in a form like this. Okay, arguments against would be the level of customer complaints. All right, we've got a quality product here. Our level of complaints is far lower than the potential company we could outsource to. Now, I can see that I've got the total output and the total capacity of these two companies. Well, I can do some calculations with that. Okay, I can calculate capacity utilization, and I will definitely be doing that to help support my answer. And you could do that now, calculate the capacity utilization of these two businesses, because this could be an argument for or against outsourcing. The unit cost, well, we can see that Rugged Tents is higher than Zen Outdoors, so we can combine that with the calculation we make about how much this company is prepared to pay for the tent. And we can see also that they've got an 8-day lead time on their orders. Okay, Lucy gives a guarantee, 1 week delivery guarantee. All right, so we can see that there are going to be some issues with outsourcing. So how are we going to put that together? So first of all, I've got far more. I do have some information about an alternative method in the case study, i.e. I could talk about using temporary and part-time employees, but there's not a huge amount of information about alternative methods. I think a far better structure, given this case study, is to talk about the pros and cons of outsourcing. So let's have a look at how I've put that together. So one of the things that the examiner has talked about in the report is the importance of planning an essay before it started. Now, my gut instinct, and you probably have a gut instinct as well about whether outsourcing is a good way to match supply to demand. I don't think it is. It's a personal opinion. It's not right or wrong, but given the fact that their comparative advantage comes from this fabric, the design of this fabric, Lucy doesn't want to share that with her biggest rival. So that is going to be my judgment. And the examiner says that, the best essays work their way towards a judgment throughout. So I've started off with the definition of outsourcing, and then I write it can involve giving away production secrets, which could be a decisive factor in this case. All right, so I'm evaluating there by stating that this giving away production secrets, giving away the secret of this fabric, is likely to be a decisive factor in deciding whether or not outsourcing is a good way to match supply to demand. Okay, so let's have a look at the information that I use from the case study and how I use that to build a judgment. Zen Outdoors may receive a number of benefits from outsourcing the order of 75,000 tents because they're currently operating at 90% capacity utilization. Right, that's good. I've calculated straight away the capacity utilization that they're working at. And will be unable to fulfill the order given their current capacity. All right, so I've used a calculation straight away. The examiner will like that. Taking on temporary staff does not seem like an option, as staff are required to undertake a long training program. If they outsource production to Rugged Tents, they will be able to satisfy demand from both their existing clients and the festival organizer. Okay, so I'm using the information in the case study. Zen have only 2 customers, so it's important they maintain good relationships with these clients. Now I'm developing a chain of argument. Failing to do so could lead to a large fall in demand for Zen's products and would mean the 2.6 million spent on expanding the warehouse would be wasted. It would also be difficult to repay the bank. They borrowed this money if orders fall. So I'm using the information in the case study to build my argument. Rugged Tents could easily cope with the order. Okay, if they have spare capacity of 100,000 or they're operating at 66.6% capacity utilization. Therefore, by outsourcing this year, Zen Outdoors can satisfy both their existing clients and music events, which help maintain the good relationships they've built with large retailers and help to develop a relationship that could have a lot of potential future growth. So, what I've done, I've combined a whole load of information in here to form a chain of analysis and clearly linked back to the question at the end, which is about outsourcing. Is it a good way to match supply to demand? So now I need to change direction in my essay and explain the cons to bring in some balance to this essay. And again, I'm going to be using the information in the case study to build a balanced argument. However, Zen Outdoors currently hold a competitive advantage because of the design of the fabric they use. Okay, this has helped to increase sales rapidly and improve their reputation. Sharing their production secrets with Rugged Tents could mean that they lose this USP, so I've developed that point. In addition to this, Rugged Tents has a far higher level of customer complaints. This could indicate an issue with the quality of the tents. If Zen provided poor quality tents to music events, it may damage their reputation and prevent music events from using them in the future. Okay, so I've developed this point about the high number of complaints that we were given in the case study up here. Furthermore, okay, so I've used a couple of connectives in here. Up here I made 1 point and then I said in addition to this. Now I've got furthermore. Due to their high unit costs, the margin on each unit supplied by Rugged Tents would only be 12% compared to Zen's margin of 35.5%. So what I've done here is I've calculated that they're prepared to pay 1.5 million for 75,000 tents. That's 20 quid for a tent, and then calculated the margin on each tent, assuming that this is the total unit cost. And we can see that Zen's margin would be much higher. Finally, another connective. Zen make a 7-day delivery promise, but the lead time on Rugged Tents is longer than this. This shows there are a number of very strong reasons that the costs of outsourcing to Zen could be higher than the potential benefit. Okay, so this is my link back to the question at the end of the paragraph, which keeps me focused. Okay, so a good answer to the question should fulfill a couple of things. It should be a clear judgment providing solution, built effectively on analysis and showing balance as well, with a clear focus on the question throughout the answer. Hopefully I've had that clear focus throughout, and I start off with a very clear conclusion, which is I don't believe it's a good way for Zen to match supply to demand. Okay, there's no messing about. I've clearly answered the question. It isn't a good way. This is because, right, this phrase here shows that I am justifying my conclusion. Okay, it's a judgment and I'm justifying it, I'm backing it up. This is because they may need to share trade secrets that are the source of their competitive advantage, and there are issues with the quality of Rugged Tents. So I've used information from the case study that I've spoken about, that I've analysed previously, to support my judgment, my answer. But then we need to include some balance. So this, however, this idea of a problem with my conclusion shows balance. This would mean being unable to fulfill the order with a client who could help, with whom they could develop a lucrative relationship. Okay, now a really good answer will provide a solution to that problem. Now, my solution is this. They've got some spare capacity, some spare capacity, not much, but they could produce these extra 10,000 tents that are required in a couple of weeks' time. Well, what should they do? Lucy could make use of the remaining capacity in the factory and produce the 10,000 tents for music events limited for free. This may help build a relationship with music events and mean that they place an order in the future when Zen have been able to increase their capacity. Okay, so I've tried to include a bit of balance, be a little bit imaginative to solve my problem. And if you can write a conclusion like this in an essay that has been focused on the question, use the case study, then that should be a top band answer.